Superficial scribblings on sexism, superficial scribblings on life. Who the fuck needs criticism? And I can always be right. Hello, something guys and gals. This is Something Guy 912, and welcome to another episode on Superficial Scribblings on Sexism. So here we are, into the new year, and what have the liberals and the leftists learned from last year? That reality is subjective to the flavor of one's narrative, especially when it comes to the reception of the shittiest, most god-awful, politically derisive movie about busting ghosts. Yes, we're on the Ghostbusters 2016 hate train again, to no surprise. I deliberately keep myself from writing in strict detail why I hate this fucking movie, because if I do, I'll just get myself in a downward spiral of ranting and raving, because this movie is so awful that even it bearing mention causes something in my head to pop like a blood vessel. Anyhow, The Guardian, in their capacity for awfulness, declared that Ghostbusters was the most cultural movie of 2016, wherever the fuck that means, because being a movie content for its audience, content for the fans of the original, and content for even being fucking good can be glossed over because you got some bitches in the Ghostbusters outfit. On top of all of that, there is lying, disingenuous buzzword finger-pointing as to its failure in the box office that Paul Feig and Sony to this day deny. Let's get mad. If there is one film that holds a political key to understanding 2016, it's Ghostbusters, that funny, good-natured, easygoing female remake of the 1980s original. There's a lot of things to say about Ghostbusters 2016, but the last word that I would ever use is good-natured. Ghostbusters has a vile, subtle hatred for its audience through the use of its aggressive comedy, combined with intentionally making the male characters stupid and ignorant and evil just to make the female characters look smart. Like as if making one of two pieces of dog shit worse by piling more dog shits on one side. Guess what? We still have two pieces of shit. This is compounded by Paul Feig's decision to ride on the identity politics, as well as Melissa McCarthy, who has stated that anyone who hates on the movie are the equivalent of a basement-dwelling neckbeard who has never seen a woman. So, good job already being a lying piece of shit, Guardian. The movie, and the way it was received and viciously attacked online, told us something vital about the hive mind of the U.S.'s reactionary right. Oh yeah, the reactionary right. Because that doesn't sound like a generalized smear like what I just demonstrated earlier with Melissa McCarthy. And this hive mind that you have such a problem with is people being critical of a movie that deserves every single fucking modicum of it, much of which is not because of the cast being female, mind you, and that this movie didn't cull the reaction it did by making such generalized smears in the first place and calling anyone who's critical of the movie a sexist. Oh, how you have learned nothing. It starred Kristen Wiig, Melissa McCarthy, Kate McKinnon, and Leslie Jones. Wiig and McCarthy were already well known. McKinnon was the upcoming SNL superstar who was later in the year to become famous for her Hillary Clinton impersonation. But it was the African-American comic Jones who became the particular object of unpleasant abuse, reminiscent of Gamergate vitriol, naturally with a racist slant. Though everyone was attacked, and all for daring to remake and allegedly spoil the original with a gender switch. Now, this is a mouthful to take in. I don't really care for the roll call on the cast, but I want to home in on the Leslie Jones abuse. The abuse that Leslie Jones received was by Milo Yiannopoulos, who dared make a criticism about her acting chops in said movie. And anyone who made a racist slant probably did it to troll a reaction out of her, which she did in every plausible way with her own racist responses. So you emboldening these clearly trolly comments is you playing into the troll's hands, you fucking retards. As for Gamergate vitriol, if any person associated with Gamergate actually harassed Leslie Jones, guess what Gamergate isn't going to do? They aren't going to say that they're not a real fucking Gamergater. They're going to say that their behavior is wrong, but don't represent what Gamergate is vying for. Unlike any account who associate with BLM, other BLM members don't call them out for their behavior. They insist that they aren't real and just puppets to make their movement look bad. What a double standard we got here. As for the movie being slammed for a gender switch, it wasn't just simply that. Once again, it was the identity politics being shoved down our throats and supposed to swallow the suppository like it was a tuna noodle casserole in a movie about busting ghosts, and the blatant hatred of people, hell, anyone critical of the movie's lack of good writing, jokes, or plot, no less. The film itself appeared to anticipate some kind of criticism of its own trolling jokes, but in retrospect, the gentle nature of this material showed how unexpected the venom was. How so? It seemed like the movie wasn't nice about the criticism. In fact, it was extremely passive-aggressive in its attempt, like with Mr. McCarthy's character making a basement dweller comment on the main villain, or that stupid ghost tits image that Kevin pulled up as the logo. So to anyone, it seemed like the movie had to stick up its ass about the comments. The attacker's manifest inferiority to Jones et al. In terms of intelligence or comedy was of no account. Did you watch the same fucking movie that I did? Because I recall Jones' performance was to loudly declare things that were happening in front of her that I could see. While I do think her character was a bit more grounded in reality, it wasn't funny or intelligent. Good job also of painting the commenters as a bunch of Neanderthals. You would think that if it was the case that they shouldn't be a big fuss to deal with. Talk about being salty about something while claiming not to be salty about something. Social media changed the rules, and contesting the trolls was like trying to fence with someone who is allowed to spray sulfuric acid from a high-pressure hose, though that notorious troll Milo Yiannopoulos was barred from Twitter for orchestrating poisonous abuse towards Jones. And that is why people don't go on Twitter anymore. Why it loses sales and watchers, because Twitter is trying to be a free speech control site with a Ministry of Truth Council that selectively decides what is offensive and not to the prevailing force. Milo did not send his fans to go spam Leslie with hate. They did that on their own accord, regardless if he had called her out for it or not. And that Twitter being dishonest about why they shut his Twitter down adds more to this ideological pinhole that Twitter has become with choosing enemies to your hive mind. Also, the only way you defeat the trolls is not to play into their trolling, but continue to take their shit seriously. That will in no way add more of the same trolly comments to trigger you into the fetal position. At first, I was baffled, along with many others. Why on earth was there so much hate, real hate, directed at a comedy film? Don't you fucking love it? These fucking dishonest acts make broad declarations and demonization at those critical of the movie, and then they turn around acting surprised that there was so much hate derived at the movie. It'd be like if I went to a black neighborhood and said that black people should be hung like the pigs they are, and then act surprised when I get my ass beat 9 ways to Sunday, like as if I didn't fucking race, or in this case, sex bait a group to act negatively towards me. The answer is that this was a pop culture proxy war against Clinton, a dummy run. Are you fucking kidding me? Like as if you couldn't make this movie more unnecessarily political. You somehow equate people hating Ghostbusters to those not voting for Clinton? Despite that Clinton did in fact win the popular vote compared to Trump. Nope, let's run this bullshit like it's true. And if it is, once again, the director and the cast made Ghostbusters a call for Clinton, saying that it supports Hillary Clinton for nothing else but for her being a woman. What kind of doublethink am I experiencing here? The trolls didn't want a female remake of Ghostbusters or the U.S. presidency. Thanks for assuming what trolls want, even though trolls are obviously not going to want this for you to make a "oh woe is me" article about how the patriarchy is still rampant, you fucking morons. You are feeding right into the hands of these trolls in every conceivable way. The Ghostbusters hate campaign was John the Baptist to Trump's non-Jesus. Only men belong in Ghostbusters or the White House. Oh my fucking god. What a horrible fucking equivalency. And more of taking what trolls say seriously. Let me tell you something about men only belonging in Ghostbusters. There is a fucking cartoon in the late 1990s where there is a female Ghostbuster, Kylie Griffin. And guess what? The show didn't make a bold statement about it being a diverse show for the sake of diversity. She was included creatively, and people love her because she wasn't shoehorned in to get some brownie points with the feminists. So guess what? Peter Bradshaw and Paul Feig and Sony execs who continue to make this false claim that people don't want to see women in film. Extreme Ghostbusters beat you to the progressive punch in 19 fucking years and did it better, you fucking cretinous scum. And you continually make these claims like as if they hold merit. Guess what? They don't. So that you have learned nothing from this year and that you don't understand why people voted for Trump or your fucking bullshit ideological movie failed in making a profit. I'm afraid that you will never learn. Since this is just a piece on a list of culturally impactful things in 2016, let's start right out with the comments, as I haven't done that in a while. Robo83 says, no, the reason people hated on Ghostbusters reboot was because it looked terrible and turned out to be atrocious. Finally watched it on a plane trip the other day as it was free. It really was as bad as people's fears. Sony lost the potential of doing something good when they decided to force feed us a movie nobody wanted. Also, it is not pro-feminist to go from all male to all female. It is sexist. Feminist would be to have a mixed group who get along naturally. Exactly. I'm not going to discount the people who probably did wow this movie for the all-female cast exclusively, but they are an extremely small minority and do not hold the prevailing theory of why the movie tanked. It failed in exactly the same way that Total Recall or RoboCop did, force-feeding a cynical cash grab reboot of the 80s classic. But the difference is that when Total Recall and RoboCop did tank, the directors didn't blame the fans for being fucking misogynist for it. John12 says, everything the journalist said in this article about Ghostbusters are exactly the reasons why people have turned their backs on liberal Democrats this year. Everyone is telling you this, yet you still don't listen. No, Russia didn't have a hand in you losing. Ugh. Ghostbusters was a bad movie. It had nothing to do with Clinton, racism, sexism, ism, etc. These are just excuses, poor excuses, because yet again something didn't go the way you wanted it. The reason you keep bigging on this movie is because it basically turned into a liberal political agenda, or you turned it into one. That's not what the fans wanted for a new Ghostbusters flick. The saddest thing is, I reckon the same will happen with the new Wonder Woman flick. I think it will do well, but I fear it will be seen as yet another liberal political agenda movie. Or could be well hijacked by the liberals. I really couldn't agree more. I will give Wonder Woman a chance, but seeing Sony and DC's track record to this date, it might be just another boring drab movie mired in subtle moral busywork. At the Bridge says, pretty silly. A Hollywood corporation rehashed an old idea rather than come up with a fresh one, something that's happened before, been widely and loudly criticized. Then they compounded the offense by releasing a lousy trailer, the film itself turned out to be better, that was borderline racist and reacted in wholly the wrong way to the subsequent shitstorm. Also, trolls didn't like Ghostbusters. They weren't the only ones. I really don't think Leslie Jones' character is racist per se. Stereotypical, yes, but something being stereotypical necessarily can lead to racism. It is, however, amusing to see a movie that's for breaking down social barriers that women have to face it, still has to result to cheap gags like a black woman being really loud and sassy. Finally, John himself says, I think a lot of people are just sick of awful remakes, Ghostbusters being one of them. The fact that the media and the marketing of the film decided that all men who didn't like the movie were either racist, misogynist, or both, rather than admitting it's just a bit of a shit movie, speaks more about politics at the moment than the slant that Bradshaw is making. The reactions of the people championing a mediocre at best movie demonstrate what has happened to the minority smug left liberals. If you don't agree with us, then you are a racist, misogynist, etc., etc. They are unwilling to admit they are just as bad as the minority right who did attack this movie for the reasons they claimed all did. And with this, I say, fuck ideologies. The left and the right are no different from each other. They are both smug and up their own asses, scream obscenities down at their opposition, and use the same dodging of an argument to maintain their ego. Especially if said ideology is pumped into films that have no purpose of having said ideology. So this and Superficial Scribblings on Sexism number 19. My 20th episode will be a mouthful to take in. I dare say it will take almost a whole hour to record, but it is an important article to reflect the downfall of SJWs in 2016.